Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are those who would see things. And sometimes it gives a name of oddity to those who have unbiased sight and are able to see the colors and the multidimensional things around them, and perhaps even more. And regular people on the street will hear you talking this way, and they will say, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not them." But they're forgetting something. Right now, as you sit and listen, science has identified over 13 dimensions. And most of them are out of the range of your reality. But they have been identified. So multi-dimensional things are part of your science. So when a human says they can actually sense some of these things, it may give you a moment of pause, because you see, to the science, they're real. So who are you then to decide that a human cannot see them? This is part of the development of the old souls that have come here for a purpose. Unbiased sight, even in this room, is here. There are healers here who are starting to see things that is not part of their old reality. And they're not sure what it is they're either sensing or feeling, but they know it's there. It doesn't have to be the sight from the eyes, but sometimes it is. There are those, even in this audience, that are having revelations about a new energy, and they are actually seeing things and visions that they can't explain. This is part of a new energy to an old soul who is starting to revisit that which is multidimensional sight. The teacher, John, is on schedule. And what I mean by that is this Lemurian is a medical doctor. It also means that he's seen the slides. He's gone through the studies. He knows what three-dimensional double helixes look like. He knows the profundity, even under the electron microscope, of the billions of parts in one molecule. And that's just the beginning. He starts to have visions. They're hidden in certain names, the best names that he can have. But they all have to do with unity. There's a grand plan, and he sees it. He sees DNA connected in ways that are even beyond the ways of the past where people saw connection. He sees fields that no one has seen yet. He color codes them so that you can understand it better. And then he starts to see what might be inside the actual double helix strands. He sees the multidimensional connections and unity that is around these things that are so profound. And he's right. This is his second sight, on target, reasonably practical for what someday will be discovered. He sees your Akash. Did he tell you that? Did he tell you about the vision where he was taken to a place in a guided way where he could select which lifetime to look at? There is a metaphor there, dear ones, and I'm going to give it to you in just a moment. He has identified what we have told you so many times that is hidden and invisible. That the energy of all of your past lives is contained in the double helixes. And that the chromosomes play a tremendous part because they're Pleiadian. Because they are the stuff of the stars, because the Pleiadians had their parents, which was the stuff of the stars. Some of you understand what I mean. All that is inside you, and that soul that you have, and the DNA that you have, it starts to make sense because it is awakening. This is the subject that we have given you so many times about the new human. But John is starting to see the structure. And the structure starts to reveal things. Because he will put it on the screen in his visions for you to see. So I want to tell him some more things that are coming. To increase his ability even to envision these things. John, you are a direct descendant of a Lemurian mother. Your Lemurian name is Eli. Eli. You assisted in the Temple of Rejuvenation, and you know it. And it leads you in this lifetime right back there to start to describe what you knew. So let's talk about the big one. The invisible one. Around every molecule of DNA, there is a field. There has to be. Those listening to this is a review. Every single piece, molecule of coherent, complete DNA is identical to the next one. Trillions of them you have. You may not be a doctor or a scientist, but you understand there's nothing that is specific with DNA. It's all identical, all through your body. You don't have heart DNA and arm DNA and liver DNA. It's all identical. And there's something in that for you to know. How does it communicate with itself? How does DNA all know something at the same time? And what does that look like when it knows something at the same time? Well, first of all, you have to look at what is in DNA besides the billions of chemical pieces that make up the blueprint of the human body. There is a part of the consciousness that is remembered from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. That means, old soul, your maturity schedule is in there. What you remember, who you are, is all in there. Every single piece. What else is there? Go slow, my partner, because I'm giving you a lot. There is a field, a small field, around every DNA molecule. Trillions of them. And all of these fields overlap. This is the way that they all can communicate instantly together. You are one being. And consciousness is part of that DNA, not in your brain, dear ones. Consciousness is all the parts, the heart, the brain, the pineal, the DNA. Because consciousness also reacts to your past. That's contained in your DNA. That field doctor, is something you will see. The mechanics of how it might interface to create a unity that you're studying is critical. Have you ever heard of spontaneous remission? That's a confluence of knowingness where all the fields around all the molecules of DNA instantly change. And that then causes chemical reactions, stem cell release, all of the things. That is right from the DNA. Right from the activities, and I'm saying activities of the double helixes. You think they're simply suspended in that molecule, minding their own business. They move. There is interaction. They position themselves. And they've got a field. Many, many years ago, a Russian, Vladimir Poponin, had an experiment with DNA and electrons. It was the first experiment that would start to show there's a relationship between physics and DNA. What he discovered, that DNA has the ability to pattern certain physical attributes. And once the patterns are there, they remain. It's almost like the DNA imprinted instructions to physics. I just gave you something else you needed to know, doctor. I'll tell you something else. That help you're getting from the Syrians is real. These grandparents would come in now, and they'd start reviewing just a little bit of the textbooks from Lemuria. You had a vision, and you explained you weren't really certain how it played out, but you drew it, and you showed it to us. And it was faceless figures, seeming perhaps even to meet around a table. That is a metaphor for cellular coherence, a meeting of the DNA. That is part of the unity, the field around the DNA, critical. It's a multidimensionality that is not able to be measured except in the experiments of what DNA does with other things. You won't see it, but you will see the reaction from it. And that's coming. But meanwhile, it starts to change the ladders, the interconnections. Oh, but there's more. You see, that field around the molecule of DNA, well, it contains something very special. Not to give it away, but where do you think the sacredness of your higher self resides in your body? It is not in the double helix. The pineal, well, that's an instrument of reception and transmission. It's what talks to the field around the DNA molecule you call intuition. Intuition doesn't come from the brain. It can't, because it outthinks the brain. The brain is a computer and a storage of what you do know, and it computes. But it does not give you what you don't know. That comes from somewhere else. Dear ones, intuition, that comes from that sacred part of you, which is that higher self. And I'll tell you, that is that golden lining around every single molecule of DNA that's multidimensional, that field. That's where the higher self is. Notice that it is removed from the past lives. Notice that it's removed from the blueprint of the body. It's outside the molecule. It has to be. Because you're going to have to discover that outside of that which is biology. And that's not metaphoric. I have just given you the place, if you want to say, where a multidimensional, sacred soul energy resides in you. It's in the field. And this field is not to be confused with another word called the field, which is the potentials of everything which is around all humanity. No, this is your own body-wide system, a multidimensionality. Now, the doctor saw something else. He saw where the past lives were, metaphorically, on the ladder. And there were so many of them. He saw a metaphor where you'd be able to stop and open the door to each one. And in his vision, he even indicated that he had a choice to do it or not to do it, or to look into the future life or not. In other words, there were no rules, but they were all showing. That is a metaphor. They were all showing. There haven't been many teachers that would come along that had this kind of sight, would put it on the screen and draw it for you and say, I see where the past life doors are. That is a metaphor for something that's happening right now to you. And I'm going to call it the evolvement of human consciousness past an old energy called human nature. Here's what it means. What would it be like, old soul, for me to turn the page, and instead of you sitting there wondering how many past lives you've had or what you did or what you learned, what if instead you were aware of them? Not chapter and verse, not years, no faces, no dates, but you were aware of what you'd learned from all of the doors called past lives. And you would sit there with maturity that is new, but is available because you've lived through them. What could an old soul tell you who could remember all the things of the learning of what worked and what didn't work in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime? You could sit there at their feet and they'd be called a master, because they would have the maturity of what was the right way to live. They would start to have a memory of the things that were taught originally, not now, not current, not the ones all mixed up with human ideas. The original source, that's there too. What that person would bring to the party called the new energy, that is what I want to tell you. You would remember that love is king. You'd remember that war doesn't work. You'd remember the horrors and not to do them again. And by the millions, you would change this planet because you're remembering. And right now, it's not available. It's not available because the old energy is starting slowly to pass. And in the old energy, none of you remembered that. If you did, and if you could, you wouldn't have war after war after war, and every generation tries the same thing with the same dysfunction. And that is the difference between then and now. And it's going to be seen and envisioned in multidimensionality in the things that are coming. The little presentation given today by the doctor is the truth. It's difficult for you to study and understand esoteric things, but it is the new biology. For multidimensionality will start to play a part even in science with chemistry. There will be revelations, and it's going to play into healing. It already has in the doctor's life. These are the things, are the forerunners of the evolved human being to come. And you're starting to envision them and see them, and now you know why and how. And I even told you why your higher self is so elusive. Because it stands outside in the field of every molecule. So what do you think is the secret of getting in touch with that higher self? And the answer is to stand outside with it. You see, consciousness is not something that has a location. Consciousness has an energy. And that energy can shake hands with that higher self, no matter where it is in your body. That's the oversoul, dear ones. That's the sacred thing you were born with. That's the peace of God that has been talked about in almost every prophet on the planet. That's the oneness. That's the unification. That's the goal. That's mastery. Not all of these things you will understand. Even in listening and reviewing, you still won't understand. It's not necessary you do. It really isn't. It's given more for the doctor. Ilahi, you're in the right place at the right time, and I think you know it. All of these things are given to you today to tell you that magnificence is yours. It's starting to show. It's slow. But the things that this planet has suffered in, the dysfunction of those who would kill others, the unbalance that you seem not to be able to control, the things that you cry over, they all play into a bigger puzzle of light versus dark, and how you're going to maneuver yourself in ways you never have before that changes human nature itself. And you remember what doesn't work. And you start peace on earth forever. That is the potential with free will of humanity right now. I tell you these things because they're so, and they're true. Think on these things, for they will change how you walk out of this room. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. A different kind of channeling. Not necessarily a message, but three potentials. The meeting is being put on and hosted by what is called a futurist. A futurist is one who spends their life or the energies in trying to predict that which will come. And in the predicting of it, to prepare in a benevolent way when it happens. To put things in place that would agree with what is seen to be coming. That is a futurist. And in honor of that, I would like to paint a picture of three things that you could expect in your future. I'm going to base them around the questions that were asked of my partner today. One of the questions was about electronics. about machines, about the future of what you call artificial intelligence. Where is it going? Is there a danger to human beings because of it? Is humanity to go into a dark hole of its own creation because it made machines that turned against it? Is it going to do the kinds of things that your movies have predicted, told about, goes into your consciousness? And here's the answer. You don't know what you don't know. And what I mean by this is, what is coming in the future is not predictable by anything that you've experienced in the past. The evolution of circuitry, of artificial intelligence, the evolution of technology itself for the last 50 years doesn't necessarily apply to the next 50. And the reason is because of a systemic paradigm shift. And that can only happen with consciousness that changes in its expectations of what you want, of what is happening. Now, what I'm going to tell you is real. It is not that a prediction from Kryon, it is that which Kryon and you have seen before in other places at other times. How is that possible? Are you talking about Earth? No. Remember, old soul, you're a very old soul. We gave a message some time ago. How old are you? And it puts you on other planets of free choice, going through this shift at different times. Many of you are awakening right now and remembering what's coming, remembering what to do. It's starting to temper your fear of what you see, because at some level you remember where it might go. The future is dependent completely upon free choice. That's you. How fast you make it happen, free choice. That's you. So if I say 50 years or 100 years, which I will not say, it'll be wrong. Faster or slower depends upon you. There will be some surprises. And the surprises in technology will be surprises because nobody ever considered it. Nobody ever invented it. Number one. This is not necessarily in the distant future, but it is number one. It would be the first step. And what I'm going to give to you in all three instances has to do with you, the benevolent healing technology of the human being. You're going to find the focus in the future of electronics is going to be health. It's going to turn inward into the human's ability for technology that will be benevolent and help you heal. Right now, electronics does not turn inward, it turns outward. You use something. It accomplishes something. In this particular case, that is an outward evolution. This is an inward evolution. Electronics, machinery, all these things going inward and turning to an understanding more of the human body. I give you the first scenario. It involves inventions that have not yet occurred, processes that are not understood yet by you, which are on the way. The cancer patient reports to the hospital. Lays down, but instead of surgery, there's something else that's going to happen. A very tiny, small injection with something going into the body that you didn't expect. Someone would call it, perhaps in your older energy, micro-robotics. It isn't. Oh, it's something new. And if you could examine the millions of little things that are being put into the bloodstream, you would be astonished. And you'd say, I'm not sure that that's really even possible, Kryon. Because they're as big as small cells, no bigger than a cell you can barely see with the naked eye. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, all going. But they're not robots. There is no such thing as artificial intelligence because it has become something else. It's become intelligence of the human who is involved in the healing. Think of it this way. What if you could take a piece and the part of a stem cell that is you, that has a consciousness of you, that's a benevolence of you, that would never hurt you, that's not artificial, and you insert it into that which is a microscopic machine? The cell, then, your consciousness is guiding the rest of that part. Part electronic, sure. Part mechanical, barely. Going through the bloodstream on its way to a place that is the tumor. And after literally less than 15 minutes, they're all collected around the tumor. It's not a robot. It's not artificial intelligence. It's you. Inserting yourself into your own body in a miraculous way through inventions that are not here yet. Part biology, part machine, part electronics, all together in a benevolent scenario that gathers around the tumor and with a process you don't know about, destroys it. Destroys it. A hint, what destroys disease? Not the scalpel. I'm not talking about that. What is it that can destroy disease? It's the first wave of the understanding. You're inserting consciousness right next to the tumor. And it starts to go away. It's dissolving. It has no choice. Because it's got millions of little yous all around it. Is this possible? Is something like this even feasible? I've just given you a reality that will happen. Now that's archaic compared to the next one. Leap over. How many years? It's up to you. How many years? The cancer patient reports to a building. And the building may have a sign that says the V group, complete and total healing. One-stop shopping for disease elimination. And the cancer patient goes into the building. There's no injection. This is the height and the evolution of virtual reality. Today you have the beginning of it. You put on a pair of goggles and you can look around, and what you see is that which is a program. You can look around yourself in 360 degrees. You'll be put into beautiful nature. You'll hear the sounds of nature. And in that you feel this virtual reality is all around you. Dear ones, that's a toy compared to what I'm going to give you. You go to a place, you sit down. I won't describe the apparatus. It'll give it away. It's coming. It will be invented. It's in the minds and the Akashes of those who will do it. And in a moment or two, you are in another place. A virtual reality that lets you stand and walk and be. So real is it that you can interface with others, not with a program, with other intelligences that are human. They're in there with you to help you. Nothing is artificial about it, except the things you see. And what you see is a healing center. And in this healing center, a story within a story, you go into a building. And you lay down. And above your head is a screen. And on the screen is your tumor. And you're lying down for a reason. That is so you'll be relaxed and joyful, understanding. So there's no distribution one way or other to blood to your head or to your feet. It's normal. You're in a position of neutrality. The screen is above you, and you start to see your tumor. Given to you may be something called paddles. I'm not going to describe them. It would give it away. And in this, you are going to manipulate the healing of your own tumor, but that's not all. You're going to use some sounds also. You're going to sing a little, and there's going to be some affirmative kinds of tunes and sounds you may make. A schedule that you've rehearsed and that you know. It is so real. You're in another world, and yet at the same time you're sitting in a chair, lying down perhaps. But it feels like you could stand, you could be, you could do. In the real world, that's not where you are. You're in the virtual world. And then it happens. In this virtual world, you start seeing yourself heal your own tumor. You watch it start to go down. The healing starts to be complete. There's a feeling of joy. You start to see your own healing in such a profound way, and you realize this is great, this is wonderful, look what I'm doing. The virtual experience lasts a day or more. It is so real, you eat during that time and you're nourished. In a virtual situation, it's so real. You get up after you've dissolved your own tumor and you've sung to it and it's gone. You're not done. You go for the tests. And you sit, and the doctors start to test to see if it's gone. And it is. And you see the results, and you see the chemistry, and you see the charts. And they shake your hand and they say, congratulations, it's gone. All in a virtual world. When it's time for you to come back to the real world, they bring you back slowly. You didn't put on a pair of goggles, dear ones. I'm not going to tell you what you did, but it was complete. It surrounded you. There's nothing like it. Virtual world, almost like you stepped into another dimension. Not to give it away. And when you come back, nobody gives you any tests to find out how it turned out, because they know. Complete healing. You cognized with your own consciousness a total and complete healing that you had done yourself with the assistance of a virtual healing pattern, and you walk away without cancer. Now that's the power of the future. Because it's a future that recognizes what consciousness can do and what it can be. That's scenario 2. Scenario 3. Question about the multidimensional human being. And in order to give this to you, this is where you're going by yourself, without any machinery, without any virtual, without any chemistry. This is evolution. Not to tell you how long it may take, it's up to you. But let me introduce something that's dysfunctional in your body. You don't even know it is. It's just the way it is, and you've accepted it, and that is called your innate. How does it feel to be the highest evolved creature on the planet with intellect, where you can examine your own being, why you exist, why you're here, to say the words, I am that I am, and yet there is another process in your body that is smarter than you. You muscle test, kinesiology, all to find out something that you ought to know, but you don't, because you are separated from your chemistry. Let me ask you, just logically, does it make sense that you would have been created in this way? And the answer is no, it's not logical. and it doesn't help your survival. Disease attaches itself to it, and you never know it until you're hurt. You've got to access the innate separately, completely and totally separately, through processes that are archaic, really. It can't really talk to you. It can give you signals. It can't talk to you, not really. Signal you here, signal you there. Innate, the smart body. The multidimensional human being is going to use that 24th pair of chromosomes that you think you don't have. Oh, 23andMe people. The 24th is multidimensional. It is not yet understood or seen or recognized. It's the one the Pleiadians gave you for today. Because it starts to work in you, and generation after generation, when consciousness starts to increase and you start to see things and you start to see quantum things, it will reveal itself in the double helix. And you will have a revelation, oh my, there's more than we thought. And what is it going to do? The first thing that you'll start seeing is children born with a meld of themselves and their consciousness and their innate. They will be their own healer. They will know all about their blood chemistry without a test. They will know when any disease tries to attach to them instantly, the moment it happens, instead of waiting for something to grow and have pain. They'll be their own medical intuitive. And people will see the first stages of this and they'll say, this is unbelievable, it's not right. It'll come out firstly as odd and unusual, and they'll isolate them because they're not normal. Welcome to Earth. That's what you do, don't you? That's what you've done to the autistics, you know. Because you don't see it coming, do you? You don't see the savants in the future, do you? You only see an unusual set of children that have odd communication, that are difficult in an old energy, because you're not there yet. You don't know what's coming. You don't see yourself in them, do you? A non-linear thinker. That's who they are. It's starting to show itself in so many ways. Look at what they can do that you can't, and that'll give you a hint of who they are. It's coming. That multidimensional piece of your DNA that you can't even see yet is going to bring your consciousness in line with your innate. Now, I finish with this. What is your innate attached to that is also a mystery that you cannot easily access, and it's called the Akash of the human being? You're going to be connected to your Akash. What do you know about the Akash? It's something that often bothers you. It bothers you because it only remembers bad things. These are the things that even today you work with, and successfully, but you work with them because they're not obvious. They're not pasted upon your consciousness yet, and they will be, which gives you full access to the wisdom of the past, full access to dismiss all negative things. This will be one of the most significant evolutionary steps of humanity, the marriage of the Akash, the innate, and consciousness. That will be the multidimensional human being. And when it takes place, you will then look at the fact that you might have come from the Pleiadians, and you'll know who they are. You'll understand, because it's all part of a scenario of connection, of coherence with your brothers and sisters from the stars. That is the future. How soon, Kryon? Not soon enough. Not soon enough. But you'll be there. Every single one with free choice will come back and be improved and improved in a world that has so much promise. Why, Kryon? Why all of this? What if I told you this? There'll come a time, dear ones, when it's your job to seed some other civilization in some other faraway place and give birth to compassionate action in other places of this galaxy. Are you getting this? How important you are at this juncture of time. So many mysteries, you might say, all to be revealed, and you'll be there. Don't fear these things, because they come from you. That is the message for today. And so it is.